Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to show you a little bit about transparent watercolor flowers and leaves. It's something that I've seen done before, and I tried it and I was hooked. And it's just something that you really need to practice a lot on. It's not just a technique that you're just going to do it once and be like, all right, I know exactly what I'm doing. No, you're going to really have to practice a lot to really master it and make it look beautiful. And I'm still not even there yet either. And I've been practicing every day for almost a month. But it is a really fun technique. So I'm going to show you a little bit about it. First of all, what I noticed is I've done it on cold press and hot press watercolor paper. Now the difference between the watercolor paper, hot press and cold press is, oh, and I'm using Arches, by the way. I love Arches. You can use really any watercolor paper as long as it's 100% cotton, but I love Arches, and I've been painting with Arches for years, and I'm not sure. I mean, I will try other papers, but this is always my go-to paper. Anyways, so it comes in hot press and cold press. The cold press is a little bit more rough. It's got a little bit more nooks and crannies. And if you like that look, great. I should actually go pull some of my flowers that I have done in the cold press. And I think I'm gonna go grab those in a minute. But then I started realizing that the hot press is a little bit of a smoother paper. It's still 140 pound, 100% cotton. It's still Arches. But it is a smoother, hot press is a smoother paper, and your watercolors just flow a little bit better for this technique. For other techniques, I like the cold press, but for the transparent watercolor, since it's smooth and the watercolors just kind of blend naturally, and it's a little bit of a softer look, I like the hot press for the transparent watercolors. I'm going to pause this video really quick, and I'm going to go grab some of my florals that I have done in the last month, just to show you the difference between the hot press and the cold press. Okay, so these are two florals that I have done, and it is on Arches watercolor paper. This one is the cold press, and I'm not sure if you can see, but it's a little bit more granulated. It's the way the paper is, there's all these little nooks and crannies, so the paint just goes on a little bit rougher. This is the hot press Arches, and it goes on a little bit smoother. You get a little bit of a softer look with the hot press. And I'm going to show you a little bit of these leaves. I don't know if they're eucalyptus leaves or what. I just Googled some leaves and I fell in love with this shape here because they're nice and round, and it's pretty easy to start with the transparent watercolor with a circular or just a simple shape leaf rather than a leaf that's got all these little points and jagged edges. So I'm going to start with this one here, which I think, like I said, is the eucalyptus leaf. All right, so I just wanted to show you a little bit of the difference. So this is cold press. This is hot press. They both look beautiful, but two different looks. So it just depends on which look you're going for. All right, so I've got my Arches watercolor paper. I've got my brushes here. I've got three size brushes, a 10, an 8, and a 6. And these are my black velvet, silver black velvet brushes. I just bought these and I am in love with them. And I've got my Winsor and Newton Watercolors. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to show you before we start. I do have my palettes here. And I've showed you these palettes before. I've got one of these palettes for my cool colors and one for my warm colors. But for the transparent watercolor technique, you're going to really want to make a really nice wash. So what I found was when unless you clean off your palette here and use this as one big well, that's great. But I have all these colors mixed on here, and I want to stick with one or two colors, not all these colors that I've mixed on here. So yes, I could go ahead and clean this, but I choose not to. So what I did was I went to a thrift store, and I bought all these little, I don't know, they're like little ceramic baking dishes. I don't even know what you do with these. But anyways, it came in a set of 6. And I got them for like, I don't know, $2. Anyway, so these are really, really nice. If you can go and find anything kind of like this, kind of small. I know that they do make palettes with little wells that you can, they're really cute shapes. I've seen them in shell shapes. I've seen them in flower shapes. But these were very cheap. They're actually from Crate and Barrel. But like I said, I didn't buy them new. I bought them used. And they're really nice just to make a wash of a color and not get it mixed up with all your other colors. All right, so let me get these off here. And today I'm going to be using, since we're going to be doing leaves, I'm going to be using my sap green and my hooker's green. So I'm going to go ahead and make a nice little wash of it. So got my water. Actually, let me use this brush. Go ahead and get it nice and saturated. I'm going to put a little bit in here, a little more. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in a good amount of water because I want this to be very light. Your first layer of these transparent flowers are very light. So a good amount of water in there. All right. And then how I do this, I even mix, I put a little bit more water on one side and let it be a little bit darker on the other side, just so you've got some different values here of the same color. All right, and you can pencil this in first if you want to, or you don't have to, but I'm gonna go ahead and pencil this in first. And I'm just gonna do some, let's see, just some round little leaves here. And then you can kind of connect them if you want to. And then you can make as many as you want. So this is the first layer, okay? So we're gonna be doing those first. Then we're gonna start layering. So this is how an object starts looking transparent, is the more you keep layering objects on top of objects, like leaves on top of leaves, petals of flowers on top of petals of flowers. So then we're gonna come in and we're gonna start overlapping some of these, okay? All right, and then maybe one more over here. And then we'll put all the little stems in later. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and fill in some of those, the first layer of leaves that I had drawn. All right, so I believe this was one of my first ones. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna fill it in with this really light wash of my hooker's green. All right. Now, you don't want to do the leaf right next to it that's bumping up to it, because you want to let this one dry completely before you go ahead and do the leaf that's right next to it. So we will go ahead and let's do this one. So as long as they're not touching, you're good. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash off my brush and I'm going to take a little bit of my darker value that I had showed you on here. I had my darker value on one side, my lighter value on the other side. And I'm just gonna go around and just put a little bit of that darker value on either the edges or one side. It's up to you where you wanna put that darker value. I usually put it on the edges. All right, wash off your brush really well again, and then go directly into your paint this time. Let me show you. Now I'm going directly into my paint, and I'm using my size 10 if I didn't mention that yet. I'm just putting some of that paint right on my tip of my brush. And you want to dab it off a little bit, just so you don't have a lot of water on there. And you want to lightly go over just with the tip of the brush, and you want to hit it in certain areas. You can go around your whole leaf if you want to, or you could skip certain areas so that you have lights and darks in your leaves. Look how pretty that is. So when that starts to dry, it's gonna leave this very transparent looking leaf with the nice dark edge. All right, and if you even want to go in even more, I wash off my brush really well, and if you don't want it to dry exactly like that, which I love, this would be fine for me just to dry like that. But if you wanna go in and play around with it a little bit more and just kind of hit some of those areas that are bleeding into the middle, and smooth them out a little bit, you could definitely do that as well. You just want to leave some of these crisp edges on the border. You can also go in, if it's still wet, and you can lift. I've got a clean brush and I'm dabbing it off on my little towel here. And I'm just lifting some of that middle. I'm not really going to the edges, I'm just lifting the middle and making it a little bit more transparent. All right, this one dried a little bit already, which was my mistake. I probably should have just stuck with one leaf before going on to another. So I'm gonna re-wet it, okay? I'm gonna take some of my watered down green, but a little bit darker value, and I'm just gonna go around the edges like this. All right. And just start shaping your leaf. If you think that you had drawn it a little bit too thin, just start reshaping it however you want. Clean off your brush really well. Go ahead and grab some of your color. Just with the tip, very gently, start hitting it right on the sides. Go in and grab more if you feel like you need more. And go in and just start hitting it right on the edge here. The darker it goes on, the better it looks when it dries, in my opinion. But again, like I said before, you may not want to go around the whole thing. You might want to leave some darker edges and some lighter edges. Like in this case, I think I'm going to leave this side. I think I'm going to leave this side a little bit darker and this side a little bit lighter. So go ahead and wash off your brush. You can leave it just like that to dry, or again, with a clean brush, just go and smooth out some of your edges a little bit. Try not to hit the border too much. You just want to get that inner dark wash. You don't really want to get the crisp border. Look how pretty that is. All right, and again, with a clean brush, go in and pick up some of your middle. Dab it off on your paper towel and go on to the next one. All right, so I'm going to get my little wash here once again. You don't want too much on your brush. And let's go ahead and do this one. Now, I had made this one a little bit too wide, so I'm just going to thin it down a little bit. All right. Now, as you can see, I'm doing every other one because I don't want them to hit at this point, because then they will just blend together. Go around with the wash. Just a little bit darker wash. All right, and then go in with the crispness again. Just the tip of your brush. You could do this with any size brush you want. It really just depends on how big your leaves or your petals are. Obviously, the bigger you're painting, the bigger you want your brush to be. All right, look how pretty that is. So again, it hit a little bit more in this area and a little bit lighter in this area. Wash off your brush and smooth it out if you want to. You don't have to. You could have just left it just like that. Now, my painting is starting to dry right in the middle here. I don't know if you can see that. See how these went on a little smoother? This one here did not. It's okay. Clean brush and just re-wet it and work it. There, and I'm just picking up some of that middle again so it dries nicely. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dry these, and then I'm going to show you how to layer them. You want to make sure that these are completely dry before you go on. Okay, so another thing that I realized is the hot press, as you're warming it up with your heat gun or blow dryer or whatever you're using, the hot press seems to dry a little bit faster. So you don't need as much heat time as when you're drying your cold press. Go ahead and feel it. If it's pretty, if they're still a little cool, which means they're still a little damp, but that's okay. It feels almost the same temperature as the regular paper, unpainted paper here. All right, go ahead and make sure they're dry. Oh, and then another thing is, did you see how I used the tops of my hands? I went like this. Don't put your fingerprints. There's oils. Even if you don't feel it and your hands feel very dry, there is oils on your fingertips, and you don't want to touch your watercolor paper with those. So I always go with the top of my hand and feel if my watercolor paper is dry. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do overlapping ones now. So this is where the fun starts to begin. And I'm gonna just choose this one here. So again, with my light wash, I'm gonna go ahead and fill in. Now you want to be careful not to overdo overbrush these areas of your crispness here, okay? So you wanna make sure you don't overbrush it because it will pick that back up and get rid of it. All right, a little bit with my darker wash on the edges. You could even tap it in if you want to. All right, make sure that's nice and round, and with a clean brush, go in, pick up your color with just the tip, and go ahead and hit it all on the sides here, wherever you want. You can pounce your brush if you want to. If you pounce your brush, you see how it leaves a little dot there? If you bring your brush a little bit straighter like this, it doesn't leave a dot, but wherever you pick it up, it will leave that little bloom. Let me do that again, just to show you. So you could drag it, and if you pick it up, it leaves a little bloom. And you might want to do that all around your brush because you might like those little blooms to appear around your leaf or your petal. And if you do like that look, just go ahead and keep tapping it here and there. All right, wash off your brush. You could totally let it dry like that if you want to, or you can help it along. All right. And if you lost some of that crispness that you really, really like I lost a little of that crispness over here on this edge, go ahead, pick up your paint once again, and just carefully go around your edge, and you can smooth that out. There. All right. If you think it's too watery, again, you can pick up some of that water with a clean brush, dab it off on your towel or your paper towel. You could even pick up some of where it's hitting and overlapping. So this just naturally happens when you overlap two things. Obviously it gets darker because there's one layer here, and two layers right in the middle, right? So this layer is going to automatically be darker. So if you want to darken it even more to exaggerate your painting, which I'm going to show you in a minute, you're going to have to let this dry completely. Go ahead and pick up some of that extra water that's on there, just so it dries without puddling. All right, and I have a little bit of a puddle on this side, but I don't want to mess with that edge right yet. I'm going to let this all dry first, and then I'm going to go in and I think I'm going to clean up that edge a little bit. All right, so as I was saying before, I'm going to go ahead and dry this really quick because I want to show you how you can exaggerate these areas that are overlapping. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my original here, and I'm just going to show you. So see how where all these leaves overlap, this one and this one, it's darker here. This one and this one, and it's darker there, and so on. So you've got all these dark areas. If your areas are not showing up as dark as you want, like some of mine are not, which is totally fine. I do love this look as well. You could totally leave it like that. It's a little bit more of a delicate look. But if you want to exaggerate the overlapping and the transparency of these leaves, go ahead and darken up the areas. Just kind of treat this little area where they overlap as a little painting in its own, okay? So you're going to go ahead and take some of your wash that you had previously made. Make sure your painting is nice and dry, and just go ahead and glaze it. Give it another little layer. You see how now that I just put that extra layer here, it's a little bit darker than this one? So it just depends on what kind of look you like. And then once this dries, you can go ahead and even crispen up your edge even more. So then the whole thing is really a little darker. I'm gonna go ahead and do it to this one. I'm just putting a little bit of a wash on it. A little wash on this one. And I might as well just do this one too. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do some more leaves, and I'm going to show you the veining and the stems. Okay, so I went ahead and I did a few more, and I overlapped them in certain areas. Now I want to show you to overlap a third time. I'm going to do a leaf right here so that it will overlap this area for a third time, because this is the one layer, this is the two layer, now we're going to do a three. So I'm going to take my light wash again, and I'm gonna try and put it right here so that I could get 3 layers. So just my light wash, make sure your light wash is everywhere. It's kind of hard to see now that you keep layering. It's hard to see a new layer on top. So just kind of look at it sideways and hopefully it's shining in the light, and then you can see that it is wet. Go ahead. A little bit of my darker wash on the outside. All right, and then clean off my brush, pick up my paint, and then just make that crisp line. And just try to follow along with the edge if you can still see it. And again, if you want more blooms, just kind of lift up your brush in little areas here. You'll make some little blooms that you can go ahead and smooth out later if you want to, but it's just laying down a little bit more paint on the edge, which I find is a really pretty touch when your edges are a little bit darker. All right, now go ahead, clean off your brush, smooth that out a little bit if you want to. You could drag it to the middle, you could just drag it to the side, wherever you want. Or you, like I said before, you don't even have to do that. You could just let it do its thing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and dry it, and then we're gonna just crispen up those edges where it's hitting for a third time. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my wash, make a little bit more here. All right, dab it off. You just want to kind of glaze those little areas that are hitting for a third time, so they're a little bit darker. So it's overlapping. So you've got this circle, and this circle, and this is where they're all overlapping. So that is the third layer right there, just like this one. And then this one automatically was a third layer right here, this little slice right there. But it was darker to begin with because it was the edge of the leaf, so the paint was a little bit thicker there already. Look how pretty. All right, I think that is so pretty that I want to do another one. Let's do another one right here. Go ahead and make your wash, and I'm going to hit these two leaves right here. Go ahead and fill it in. Okay, so now that this is all nice and dry, we're gonna go ahead and add our stems and the veining in the leaves. All right, so I'm gonna stick with my Hooker's Green still. I'm gonna make another wash here. A little bit of a deeper value this time, not as much water. And I've got my size 6. And if you need to turn your page a little bit, totally fine. And I'm gonna make all my veining come down this way because I'm gonna have my stems come down this way. So you need to just make it make sense, okay? Because you don't want some veining going this way and then the stem is coming off this way. So you just have to kind of look to see what you're doing. I'm gonna put a line going right through the middle, and it could be a broken up line, it could be a solid line. I'm just using the tip, the very tip of the brush. Now all leaves have different kinds of veining. Just look, Google an image of a leaf and just kind of mimic whatever you see. Mine is just a kind of a wavy, shaky line. And it could even be broken up if you want it to. It doesn't have to be solid like that. You want it to be a little bit darker, more towards the end of the leaf here. So go ahead and do that to all your little leaves. And I think mine just, depending on how big the leaves are, they just have a couple of little veins going. So there's like a main little vein here, and then they're all kind of branching off from there, going to the edge. And then even where the leaves overlap, don't get confused of this veining on this leaf. Just concentrate on one leaf at a time. That way you don't confuse yourself. Okay, so see how you have some overlapping here of the veins? Totally fine, makes it look nice and realistic. So we got a lot of our veining done there. All right, I'm going to deepen up just the tips. I'm just making my wash a little bit darker. And I just want a little bit of some depth in the veining as well. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of darkness, maybe in the main vein going up, and maybe just a few little spots. You don't want to deepen up all of the vein because then that kind of defeats the purpose of the push and pull. Because then it'll all be the same value again, and you don't want that. Especially if some of these that are overlapping, you can definitely darken some of them up. Just don't get confused what vein goes with what leaf when you're overlapping. All right, that's looking pretty good. So now we're gonna go ahead and put on our stems, and I'm gonna make another little wash here, a little bit darker, still using my number 6 brush. And I'm gonna start down here first. So I think, and always start where your stem is hitting the end here. So that's why I said before, you don't want some going this way. You always wanna know which way your stems are gonna go, because you wanna pull right off that little point. And I'm just gonna bleed mine right off the page there. And then I'm gonna start connecting my leaves to my stem. Now this one is there. And you don't have to pull off every single stem. But you do see them, since these are translucent, transparent leaves, you're gonna see the stems going through. But you don't have to do every single one. And it doesn't need to connect down to the main one here. You can connect like this one to this one. Okay. This one can go to that one. There is one here, so I'm gonna lightly just put that in. There is one here, but you may not see it in all this commotion, so you don't need to do that one. You could do this one, and if you want to bring it through a little bit, you can. There. So just step back and look at it, and if you think that some of the areas where they're overlapping need to be a little bit darker, go ahead and darken them up. If you think that some of the leaves need to be a little bit crisper, go ahead and crispen them up. Just keep practicing. Like I said in the beginning of this video, this is not a technique that you're going to master after 1 or 2 times of doing it. I still haven't even mastered it. And I've been doing it every single day for almost 3 or 4 weeks now. So just go ahead, enjoy, and keep practicing. So I hope this video helped you a little bit. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to this video if you are subscribed to my channel if you want more videos like this one. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram if you want to find me there. All right, have a great day. Bye.